Chapter 10. The everlasting power of love. As one offers his love to God, through that powerful instrument, the heart, he is offering to God the only acceptable sacrifice. This glorious sacrifice, or offering, is the price that is required in the payment for the gold that is tried in the fire and the white raiment, so that one can be clothed in light, that the shame of his mortal nakedness will never appear. This price or offering is the only price acceptable or required for any of the special blessings of Almighty God. Then follow the admonition to love with all the soul. The soul is the spirit and the body of man. It is his entire being. The concentration of generated love being directed into the cells and atoms and fibers and tissues and sinews and bones of one's body prepares and alerts the carnal flesh into a higher functioning as it begins to take on the life more abundant, which Christ promised. In this manner the very glory of life itself is increased in its power and effulgence. As the cells become more aware of this increasing glory of life, that power of life and love penetrates into the cells and tissues and fibers and atoms and glands with a quickening, glorified renewing process. This is the method used by Enoch as he changed his carnal flesh to flesh divine without descending through the gates of death. As the reality of this process is comprehended and accepted, an entirely new phase of existence begins to take place. Each living cell, as a distinct brain cell of intelligence, awakens and begins to also generate love and light, and thus are they quickened and renewed. It is given to abide in you, the record of heaven, the comforter, the truth of all things. That which quickeneth all things, and maketh alive all things, that which knoweth all things and hath all power. This holy, divine transformation is accompanied from within, not from without. The power to quicken and make alive is given to abide in man. This must be acknowledged and accepted. This great spiritual change is man's to accomplish. It is in his hands. It has always been. Yes. All that the Father has is yours. In this manner of learning to generate love in every cell and fiber and atom and tissue and sinew, the body will begin to take on the properties of the Spirit and will gradually be transformed into flesh divine. And then one will be born of the Spirit. This whole glorious process is achieved through the mind being trained to yield its powers to the control of the Spirit, even as a wild horse is harnessed and trained to obey the will of man. Learn to hold the mind steady. This is most easily accomplished by getting it focused on one great desire. As one holds his mind to a one-pointedness, his divine energies are no longer dissipated or squandered. It is in this one-pointedness that all desires are fulfilled. As the mind clarifies the hopes or desires and holds to them, without wavering, they are imprinted on the emotions and become engraved upon the very fiber of one's being. And in this method they are held forth in the very secret depths of one's closet, and God will fulfill them openly, or bring them into open tangible reality. This is the spiritual method of creation, whether it be the material things of this earth or the divine spiritual promises of everlasting perfection. If you wish to be born of the Spirit, then that desire must become your greatest concern and most glorious hope as you yourself begin to transform the cells of your body into a higher quality of spiritual substance. Only in this manner can carnal flesh be changed into flesh divine. It is not accomplished in a day, not any more than the body of an embryonic infant fills the measure of its forming in an instant or a day or a month. Each tiny tissue and cell must grow and increase in its forming. So is the spiritual form divine brought forth in its growth until it reaches the full developing of its own maturity. Then will one be born of the Spirit. The method is perfect and cannot fail. Man can fail, but not the perfection of God's plan of bringing forth. It is as the mind lays hold of the best gifts that they begin to take form in the heart. Then conception takes place. It is as the solar cells of the body, both physical and spiritual, begin to unite in the generating of compassionate, joyous love, that the great accomplishment be achieved. It is in this way that the powers of God are released throughout one's entire being to fulfill all righteousness and to become powerful in the fullness of God's great plan of perfection. This must be remembered always. It is man who is to purify himself even as he, Christ, is pure. And thus also is it man who is to sanctify himself. Perfect that great commandment of love and you will have fulfilled all the laws of purification and sanctification and spiritual perfection. Hebrews 13:15-16. By him therefore let us offer sacrifices to God continually, that in the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name, with such thanks God is well pleased. Send this love and praise out through your mind, out to bless and heal. Send it into your heart center as you concentrate that flow or current of love into the great living center, the Holy of Holies, the secret place of the Most High, and feel the powers of God sanctify your offering as it is accepted. Only through the releasing of this divine love, through the heart, can the heart be opened and its hardened seals be broken. And let me remind you that it has been because of the blindness of men's minds, the hardness of their hearts, and because of the gross wickedness of unbelief, that these great and unspeakable truths have been hid up from the foundations of the world. And the powers of them have lain dormant within each man, as he had trudged along his grubby, mortal road to the grave. God never intended it to be thus. But God permitted it that man could have his own choice and not be forced back into his presence. But it is true that all that the Father has is yours. As your mind takes hold of your desire, it becomes a dynamic blueprint held forth for its own fulfilling. It is within the secret closet of your own soul, as you close the door to hold forth the pattern of your request, that God will reward you openly, as the very substance of things hoped for is called forth to fulfill the pattern. And thus God will reward you openly, or in the full manifestation of tangible accomplishment or materialization. This is the plan and the pattern. And by your faith is it achieved, and all righteousness brought forth, or all righteous desires fulfilled. Practice daily sending love through the fibers and tissues of your boy. Practice feeling this love being generated first through your mind and then through your heart as you concentrate upon that divine center of your soul. Then train your cells to respond in an ecstasy of singing glory and peace and power as you alert them to take up that divine symphony of love. Learn to hold your entire being in this vibrating essence of love and light for at least 1/2 hour each day, preferably 15 minutes in the morning and another 15 minutes at night. Make it a reality in your daily living, even as a musician learns to master his instrument. And know fully that you are transforming your carnal flesh into flesh divine. This glorious privilege, for so it is, was not meant to be a dull, dead, burdensome ordeal. It is the very power of your own spiritual perfecting as you are not only filled with the Spirit of the Lord, but become increasingly responsive to this divine substance of perfection. As you hunger and thirst after righteousness, so will your supply be increased until you yourself are prepared to come forth full-formed, born of the Spirit, and glorified in truth. All the hosts of heaven are anxiously awaiting your coming forth as you are released or freed from all mortal restrictions and foul weaknesses and failings. This is the great truth, which one can only know by experiencing it. Know the truth and the truth will make you free from all the sorrows of the flesh. And he who is free shall be free indeed. Such is the promise. In order to make the foregoing just a little more comprehensible, I am instructed to include the following information. The commandment to love God with all the mind must be fully considered as the first step toward divine achievement. The subconscious mind has been named and described in the volume Beyond Mortal Boundaries, which precedes this one. But it has not been fully examined as the realm of the divine or holy helper, the great and glorious one, endowed with the knowledge of all truth, and with the perfect memory and all the facts one has ever learned, gleaned or experienced in the past. In the realm of the subconscious mind is the pituitary gland, which more or less is in charge or governs all the other glands of the body. The physical body is ruled and governed from the realm of the subconscious mind. When the subconscious mind becomes too clogged or defiled by evil, so that the glorious holy helper is restricted in its work of functioning, the body itself begins to pay the price. Ill health, deterioration of the organs and the tissues commence to be made manifest, and old age and senility and physical suffering become apparent as death begins to drag upon one's heels. If one loves God with all his mind, then the subconscious realm, being cleansed and renovated, the Holy Helper is given full power to function in its own great capacity of loving service. And the body cannot then possibly grow old, or ugly or ill, or die. Thus the physical, mortal body begins to take on immortality, and the carnal flesh can be transformed into flesh divine, without descending through the gates of death. Every unhappy thought of the past, every bleak, hateful memory, every discordant happening must be blessed and forgiven and forgotten and erased. Thus the subconscious mind is cleansed and purified and exalted into the true functioning of everlasting glorious power. This is a joy beyond all mortal joys. This is the glory of God in action. This is the point of power in which one forgives all who have despitefully used him, and he prays for all those who have persecuted or misused him, and he begins to take on the perfection of this Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:48. Impossible. Try it and see. Love with all the conscious mind, and your minds and lips will lose the power to hurt and wound. Love with all the great conscious mind, and you will think only the most beautiful things possible. Love with all the great living conscious mind, and you will begin to think only the most powerful things possible. And the most beautiful and the most powerful things to think is to have one's mind open to the power of being born of the Spirit. This holds the keys of all fulfilling. This is the best gift. This is the most glorious gift possible to receive in mortality, for it exalts one beyond mortality. Lay hold of this gift, for this is the best gift, and this is what the gift of faith was established for. As one fulfills that first, glorious commandment of love, he becomes purified. This is the road of purification, which leads to Zion, the pure in heart. And in that state of exalted thinking one truly begins to comprehend all things. He is filled with light. And he enters that superconscious realm of all-knowing. And God will unveil his face unto him. And this is life eternal. With God all things are possible. Matthew 19:26 and Mark 10:27. And Jesus said unto him, If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. Mark 9:23. The renovating of the subconscious mind prepares for the full functioning of the conscious mind. Often the conscious mind is designated as the mental mind. It is used for the now and everyday living. It is the realm where one is privileged to select his thoughts and the caliber of them. In this selecting is the power of his own advancing, growth and fulfilling. This is the glory of God's great gift of choice, or free agency, in which all rewards are held and honors bestowed. Everything of value must be earned. This power of choice holds all the indescribable glory of man's divine heritage of everlasting splendor. Without it there is no honor or credit or rewards, just existence as one relinquishes his divine prerogative of choice. This realm of reason and choice is also the realm of rejection and selection and of achieving. It is the heritage of divinity. As one perfects love and holds only kind, gracious thoughts forth, his comprehension of joy and understanding begin to expand or to grow and evolve. As one uses his conscious mind to think only the most beautiful things possible, he becomes as beautiful as his thoughts, or as powerful as his thoughts, according to the use he makes of his mind. In ancient times this sacred mind was known by the name of Pymander. And man can be its commander or its slave. It is powerful beyond the comprehension of unthinking mortals. It holds the keys of control, of choice, of selection and of progression, or of retrogression, according as a man uses it or permits it to use him. It holds the keys of rulership, and within it is the fate, the life, the misery or the death of each individual. Also within it is contained the magnificent powers of one's own ability to overcome. Anyone who permits his mind to dwell in the realm of hate with nothing but the vibrations of discords, fears, self-pity, jealousies or resentments, or with his thoughts centered upon sex, is generating through his own being the powers of his own destruction. Sex is not only physical, it is animal. In ruling one's mind, man becomes the master. And mastery is the first step beyond mortality. It opens the doors to divinity. As one learns to control the conscious mind by the caliber and selection of thoughts that are true and powerful, he leaves the carnal, craven, unclean realms of existence behind. He is no longer just a mere mortal. In using the conscious mind, thus the subconscious mind is released to function in the full power, and the Holy Helper is able to direct and assist one to its fullest capacity of willing, glorious service. with its complete cooperation one will be directed into the paths of fulfillment, without errors or mistakes or bitterness or misfortune shrieking out their deriding accusations. Thus, without heartbreaking effort one can open the superconscious mind, which is the realm of all-knowing or full comprehension. It is this glorious superconscious mind which rules the spirit and is in constant contact with the divine realms of glory and power and perfection. It is as one loves God with all his minds that they become united in a power of full perfection, and one reaches the point where he comprehends all things. And there shall be no darkness in him, no failures, no sorrows or dismays, and like the writer of the Odes of Solomon, he will be clothed in light and acquire a body free from suffering or affliction or pain. Thus the three minds are all part of man's being, and when united by love man truly evolves from the man kingdom into the God kingdom. It is through this uniting, by love, of the three minds that one achieves the fullness of God's promise. If your minds, all three of them, become single, or as one, to the glory of God, your whole body shall be filled with light, and there shall be no darkness in you. And that body which is filled with light shall comprehend all things, and God will unveil his face unto you. Which is life eternal. We are informed that the unveiling of God's face will be in God's own time, and in his own way, and according to his will. To be exact, it will be upon God's terms, and that will be when the individual is prepared and ready. This accomplishment will be when the mind turns inward with an increasing awareness of the love man himself is generating right within himself. And in that generating every cell and atom and tissue of his being will become filled with the glory and the magnificent power of a complete awareness of his own evolving divinity. This very training, this evolving, this developing is greater than any experience ever imagined by man. It is the truth of the unveiling of that which man has never before seen, nor heard from any preacher's lips, nor yet has entered into his heart. And it must be remembered that these great and unspeakable truths are reserved for those who love God. This is the only possible way they can be received. And this love must go beyond words. It must contain the fulfilling power of the great vibrating glory of generated love being actually released. As one practices sending forth this love through his entire being, he opens the very channels of his own soul to God, and henceforth God's own great love begins to be generated through his heart, and this is the fruit of the tree of life. And the fruit of the tree of life contains the full power and essence of everlasting life. Only by developing this great love can one possibly know or experience the glory of God's fulfilling. And to know is to experience it fully and completely for oneself. And the promise is that those who fulfill this great love will see and know for themselves. This is God's own eternal promise to those who perfect the gift of love. And the promise cannot be broken, neither can it return to him unfulfilled or void. This fulfilling alone can bring the great power of its glory or actual experiencing. There is no other way to actually know. Yes, know the truth and the truth will make you free from all earthly harassments and mortal bondage. And he who is free shall be free indeed. He will be born of the Spirit and will henceforth be able to come and go as the wind, and no one will know from whence he came or whither he goeth. This is the true reality of righteousness. It has nothing to do with self-righteousness. It completely bypasses all fanaticism and the bigoted claims of the orthodox creeded conformists, which have drawn near to God with their lips and with their tongues confessed him as their love has been taught by the precepts of men. The love of which Christ spoke, in reference to that first and great commandment, when fulfilled, is unspeakable in its divine powers of utter glory, as it fulfills all laws ever given or imagined or taught. And it is man's own complete fulfillment and glory.